damage is outrageous. See him. Watch this. Right, he's dead. Alright guys, so you've seen some examples of some boss damage, some mapping, some clear, some DPS. This is definitely getting my stamp of approval as the most damage I've ever had in Path of Exile, the most fun build I've done, and generally the smoothest playstyle, and overall it just suits me down to the ground. Super fast whirling blade, spectral throw, crazy damage. You have to dodge some stuff so you're sort of active whilst you're playing the game. It's not a completely brainless build. The general idea behind it is you stack dexterity. We have 1640 dexterity, and you turn that dexterity into cold damage with the mod 2 to 4 cold damage per 10 dexterity. More dex equals more cold damage. You get a load of cold penetration, load of attack speed, exposure, all of this stuff, and you're just nuking everything down with cold damage. So what Mathel had was a claw that had a synthesized implicit with the dexterity mod. This meant no matter what he did effectively, he could essence spam and he'd always have the dexterity mod. I did it a different way. This claw can be made deterministically, meaning you can always get this claw, Gemini claw, because it gives mana and life gained on hit, which is huge for our survivability. If we can avoid the one shot and hit something, we will be full HP. And it just makes the playstyle smoother, especially up until you get these crafted rings with your minus mana costs. And the way we crafted the Gemini Claw was we took a Hunter Claw and we essenced Deafening Essence of cold damage or Shrieking, depending on your budget. And we spammed them until we had cold damage and attack speed. There are some things that you can do to make this easier. If we take a look, you will notice that the attack speed and the cold damage are both attack mods. And say you get down to the 1 in 3 chance, you have a random other mod, you have a dex mod, you have a random other mod, you have your attack speed mod, and you have a cold damage mod. You can try go for the 1 in 3 null, which I did a couple times and failed. After failing it a couple of times, I realized that you could go to your bench and you could craft cannot roll attack modifiers, which does cost an exalt. This does cost an exalt, but when you then annul, it cannot hit the attack mods that are on the claw. So it couldn't hit the attack speed and it couldn't hit the cold, and this guaranteed it. Is you go ahead and you craft on multi-mods. So you craft on additional mods, and then once you've crafted on the additional mods, you will craft on prefixes can't be changed and suffixes can't be changed. This costs 4 exalts. This basically means it can't alter anything else. There's only 1 slot left. When you go into harvest and you go and you put on your harvest, it would be something like this. It would say reforge a normal or rare modifier as a rare with random modifiers including an attack mod. And then at that point you will end up with a claw that has tier 1 cold damage, tier 1 attack speed, and dex mod. At that point, you can go ahead and craft on penetration and crit chance. Now this is expensive. This is an expensive claw, but it's all deterministic, meaning you can get it. There's no luck involved. So I didn't mind saving up to make the claw because I knew I was going to guarantee this in the end. There was no luck involved. Cost me around 10 or 11 exalts to make, and it's worth more than that for sure currently based on price. So that's the claw. If you're looking for something cheaper, which I used for the whole duration up until I made this claw, just find a claw that has the dex mod and a bit of attack speed. It doesn't even need cold damage. I didn't have cold damage on it, and I was dunking stuff. And that was cost me an exalt. Gives us elemental damage per 10 dex, and it gives us a bit of life per int, which we're not really using, and it gives us crit multi if our dex is higher than int, which is nice, and it gives us 15% dex if our strength is higher than our intelligence, which again is nice. This has an enchant. This costs 50 chaos to buy. What this basically means is when you throw out, it takes longer for the spectral throws to return, which means you can reposition and pull them back through other mobs, which is nice. This has a synthesized dex implicit. We then go ahead and spam deafening essences of sorrow until we hit something good. Eventually, I came up with this amulet. Up until this point, I had dex, strength, in life. Eventually, I wanted to improve it, so I bought some more essences and spammed it. It could have more life, it could have something other than that fire damage, but it's the best I could do. The base costs around about it. This was sniped, I think, for 50 chaos, and then I've put some dex attribute modifiers on your gear. Do remember that they're cheap, and that gives you more attributes. So you can see it actually only has 58 dex, but it now has 69 dex, and the implicit is 15 dexterity, but it goes up to now 18. Belt costs 20 chaos. I think now they're going for an exalt. You can probably snipe one. People don't realize that 15 dex on a belt is that good at times. Sometimes you can catch one on a snipe. This belt isn't great. It has a bit of life and a res, which honestly I don't need. This would be better to have bigger life, strength. It could have chaos. Res would be lovely. Something like that. That's probably the worst piece of gear I've got. The shield is socketed gems have increased mana reservation efficiency. This shield base cost me 25 chaos, and I went ahead and what I actually did was I harvest reforged speed. So I just have a tab, and when I'm playing the game and something pops up, I have something in my little juicer tab and I just wing it and just try get something. So every time speed popped up, I reforged, and eventually I got some attack speed, a bit of dex, life, and I crafted on double damage for a divine orb. Don't know how big the double damage is, to be honest. There are other mods you can get, like cold damage as extra chaos, which, considering how much cold damage we do, that could be crazy, but double damage is nice, and considering how much we're hitting, who knows. Not ran the calculations at all, but who knows. Ideally, you get this kind of shield with more life. You would get it with a dex essence, and you could have spell suppression on it, chaos res. The shield could be improved a lot, but it did for now. The rings were a bit awkward. I just basically wanted intelligence so I could use my claw. This claw has a little bit of a higher base intelligence because it is a Gemini claw. So I got a fractured diamond ring. This cost, I think it was 50 chaos, and I spammed dex essences on it. I got my suffixes done. I then did suffix can't be altered, did a veiled chaos, got the life, and then I think I exalted mana obviously onto it because that's what you always do. These actually aren't that expensive. There was a ring that went up the other day that was much better than this for 1.5x, and I know this sounds like a lot of currency, but honestly, in the grand scheme of things, with how much currency your sentinels chuck out, with how much people run and do currency guides with mage bloods on, spending like a few exalts on each piece of gear isn't the most unreasonable thing these days to get such a crazy amount of damage. Please note, I didn't have the channeling mana costs on for a long time, and I was more than comfortable with the mana gained on hit. All that this channeling mod does at this point with a Gemini Claw is it allows me to basically pre-fire, because it only costs 6 mana, whereas before it cost around 20. So that is the trade-off, basically. Again, this has rarity, low life. It could have better stuff on it. In fact, the fact it's a synthesized topaz ring probably isn't even helping me. It would probably be better to be a res ring, like an amethyst ring, to give me some chaos res, because I'm struggling. The worst part of this build is the chaos resist. If you can get it, get it. Next up is the gloves. These took a while to find, to be completely honest, and they're not the right thing. So if you'll note on the passive tree, there is a node here that says, chance to suppress spell damage if your boots, helmets, and gloves have evasion. These don't have any evasion, but I couldn't really find a pair that had the temple mod with life and dex and an open suffix to craft attack speed. However, I then realized you could craft attack speed with the red orbs. If you don't know what they are these things, these red orbs. They can give attack speed on the implicit, and I use a lesser eldritch to get this dex mod, 3% damage increase per dex. With 1600 dex, that's like 48% increased damage. I don't know what the numbers are on that, whether you'd be better getting something else or getting spell suppression. Yeah, if you want to make a pair of these, what you can go ahead and do is you can go into your tab, get a weapon, an armor recombinator, and you can put in a pair of, say, slink gloves with dex and life on, get a temple glove, slam them together, and eventually you're going to get something pretty nice. That's probably what I should do, but I'm leaving them for now. It's the boots. The boots were super expensive, and this is where the giga damage has come from. So if you're not running that damage, these are the boots I was running up until yesterday. So these boots give me 5.1k life. If I take them off, I lose about 800 life. The reason for this is you gain life per 10 dex. They give 30 move speed and 40 dex. Now, the nice thing about these boots is burning ground immunity, shock ground immunity, and chilled ground immunity. Honestly, if I was mapping to level up, I don't think I need the amount of damage I've got. I would rather be immune to all the ground effects, which we all know are a pain in the arse. And then if I'm doing some sort of boss like an Uber, I would then swap boots. These are absolutely fine. To note, the pair of boots I've currently got, which I'll talk about, did not exist last league. So right now, I have basically the same amount of damage as Mathel, who calculated it to be around 18 million. I think he said like 20 million. Now, that is me having 20 million damage with 140k DPS. If I put these boots on, I have 250k. I basically double my damage. I have 50 million damage. I'm sure of it at this point. The reason for this is Sentinel. If you recombine Dex boots together, there is a chance you can get the Dex mod appear. The 2 to 4 cold damage. So now I am double Dex stacking. What this allows me to do is a whole variety of things. I have so much damage now that basically, if you want to think about it, I only need to get to 142k DPS, right, to match what Mathel did last league, which said he did all of the content in the game like I have, right? So I could actually start to remove a ton of dexterity, and stack defense, and then put these boots on to make up for the lack of dex. And that could be a thing. So for example, I could take this amulet entirely off, right, and I've still got more damage than I have with just the regular boots. So this amulet could be huge life, it could be additional curse, it could be massive chaos resistance, all of that stuff right to make me more defensive, and I'd still have more damage than last time. So there are options for this build. I have decided to go the absolute insanity damage route because it's fun. It means that, yeah, sometimes I'm get one tapped, you know, I could rejig it all around, but I'm just throwing it out there that this is the best damage I've ever had, and I'm showing you how I got it. Hunter, Elder chest piece, get additional curse, percent dexterity, all of that stuff. I ended up getting this base for 50c. I don't know how much the base is. It was on POE trade for 50c. I took some chaos orbs, and about 50 chaos in, this is what I got. And I crafted some life on it. Now, the attack crit is nice. That does help our crit out. I would say you would want the attack crit. Now, if I had 12% extra dexterity and I had tier 1 dex on this chest piece, which is what Mathel had, I'm sure I'd have like 1800 dex. I'd have more damage, but with this boot mod, I don't need any more damage. To be unironic here, I have too much damage. This build would be much better with half the damage, 6k life, and capped chaos. It really would. But nothing beats the feeling of going into a Drox tier 16 when he's in his bubble and literally killing him in like 1 second. That is a nice feeling, and I will take some deaths for that. This is a cold damage duel that has blanketed snow and cold to the core. This cost 1.5 exalts. I then bought a duel which had dex, attack speed, and res. I don't think the crit multi works because I'm not a cold skill. That just happened to be on there. I just needed the dex and attack speed and res. And then you'll notice that here I have something different to Mathel. Mathel had Feast of the something, if I'm correct. He originally had something other than this one, if I can't quite remember. It basically gave him some leech, but we don't need any leech because we are life gained on hit with the base. So I went ahead and got one that gives 8% max life, 5% max life, and 5% max life. It's called Sublime Sensation. This gives us a bit of cold damage per dex. Again, you could even get rid of that damage because it's too much damage, bro. I'm telling you. This is a brutal restraint duel. I've divined it. Ideally, you would get here. You see it transforms some of your nodes to have 5% dex. So this has 5% dex. This does. Ideally, this one would. This one would. But I have flat 20 dex. Flat 25 crit chance, and the reason for this was I needed the cold resist. Now if we take a look at my gear now, I don't need the cold resist. At the time I did, so I probably could divine that and change that up and try get a better duel. Something there you can work on. The other duel I got was, I think this is actually quite nice. This cost me an exalt. I don't normally spend an exalt on a duel, and I don't know if it's worth or not. Maybe you guys can tell me. I just needed the dexterity and I needed some intelligence, and this had 20 dex, 10 int, attack speed, and life, and it popped up on POE trade and I bought it without really thinking. I don't know if that's good or not. Yeah, that is what it is. You could just basically go ahead and get a massive attack speed duel. The way you would do that is you go on POE trade and you would search attack speed with shields, attack speed with one-handers, attack speed, and attack and cast speed, and then count, say, 3 of those mods and search it up and wait for a duel to pop up that has just a ton of attack speed. I'm currently level 93. If I get to level 95, I'll get some extra multi and some crit chance. I'm actually trying to figure out a way to effectively change my tree up a little bit, so I could travel up to this chaos node here and get the chaos res. I'm not sure how I'll do that. I mean, I could get rid of like this cluster. I'm not sure. Maybe I could get rid of the cluster, save some passive points and get chaos res, because that is the problem with the build. We have 54 chaos res and everything in this bloody game has some sort of degen, it has some sort of ground effect. Gets a bit annoying, doesn't it? All of my flasks and blood rage, I have about 583k. Okay, have a good one. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Peace.